This episode of Ticket Volume is brought to you by us, Invigate. Get service operations under control in no time. Get 1 free month of our software solution by going to try.invigate.com. Ticket Volume is proud to present a nominee for IT Leader of the Year, IT Role Model of the Year, and IT Woman of the Year. She has served in roles from support analyst and service desk team leader to head of service management at companies like Lewis Group, Lowell, and most recently as the director for Lapis Consulting Services. Welcome to Ticket Volume, news and information for improving IT experiences. I'm your host, Matt Barron, and each week I get to geek out with different leaders to share insights on service management, technology, and business. This episode is going to be just like that. I hope you're having a great day and a great week. I also hope that you'll share our podcast with someone or just listen twice to bump our numbers up. Whatever it takes, get involved, get us improving now. Let's begin. Welcome to Ticket Volume, Sophie Hussey.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's lovely to be here today.
Hi. Yes. Thanks for joining. We are so glad to have you. I loved meeting up with you. I always meet with my guests the week prior, and Sophie, you bring this very positive, no qualms, no nonsense energy to you. This is how it is. This is how it's going to be. And I love that about you. And I think that's probably come because you own your own consulting firm. You're an independent consultant. So talk about that a little bit. How did you get into independent consulting?
So I was a permanent employee for years and years and years. And I'd always sort of toyed with the idea of, should I go it alone? Am I brave enough? Am I ready to take that risk to step out on my own? How will I compare with other people in the market? Will I be able to compete with like some of the bigger names? And just under 2 years ago, the opportunity arose where I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to do it. I was leaving my previous permanent role as head of service management at Lowell. And I thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to step out there. I'm going to take the risk. And I was lots of panic and thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to find my first client? What's it going to be like? And I found a job within a couple of weeks. Really, really amazing. It was one interview, so much less painful than the Permi interview process. It was about 25, 30-minute conversation. We hit it off really well. I explained what I do. And I haven't looked back since. And I absolutely love it. I've worked with a number of clients so far. I'm in my second sort of long-term engagement, and I absolutely love it. It's brilliant.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing those success stories. It reminds me of my career search. Eventually, people, they need what you have, right? They need that experience, starting a service management office, starting service management journey, and being able to provide that in an independent way where you have freedom to choose how you're going to work through that and define that in the moment. It's just so empowering. So let's talk about a little bit about your other efforts, because I know that you're into mentoring. So talk about that a little bit. How do you mentor? What groups are you involved with, and why do you do it?
Well, it goes back probably about, this is going to make me sound really old, and it's actually my birthday today as well, so I am definitely old. So it goes back about 20-ish years when I was an engineer, and there was an opportunity that the CIO of the company I worked for to mentor two young people, probably about the age 16, 17, who were doing a college course, and there was a government mentoring scheme. And I was like, ooh, okay, that sounds great. I'd like to do that. I don't know what's involved in being a mentor. And basically, I just behaved with them the same as I would anybody else that was coming in that needed some support and guidance, advising them based on my experience, but saying very much, this is how I would do it. You need to find your own style, but these are the processes I follow. I just sort of teaching them how to do the various bits and pieces. And then throughout my career, more opportunities have arisen to do mentoring. And particularly in my last permanent role, there was a mentoring scheme internally in the company, which I was part of, but I also was approached by a couple of people saying, hey, would you mentor me? I'm like, yeah, totally. How can I help you? And this is all sorts of different people, different ages, people older than me, people younger than me, people in completely different sectors of the world. So there was somebody who was in operational risk, somebody in data governance, and then there's been people in IT. And it's just been very much an interactive conversation of, tell me what you want to work on. Let me tell you how I can help. And having very open and frank conversations of, this is what I would do. But very clear every time that I have the Sophie way. I know how I would approach things and how I'm perceived and what my authentic self is. And I've said very much, this is what I would do, and then find your own way. This is my advice, this is my guidance, but you've got to figure out what suits you best. Make sure that you're living to your own values. So on top of that, I'm also part of the Re-Technology Women in Tech mentoring program, which I'm very, very proud to be part of that. And I have a few mentees through there. Huge advocate for anybody, and it doesn't have to be just women who are mentors, it can be men as well. Everybody can mentor somebody, but definitely trying to help women in tech gain confidence, whatever it is with their career progression. But I also do mentoring through, inadvertently, through the contracts I do as well. So when I'm working with clients, there may well be people who I think they need an extra bit of guidance. So I'll say, I'll help you. But it's, for me, I think I'm really passionate about it because when I started in IT, there wasn't anybody like that for me. I've had to figure out how to deal with this world of IT and very much a male-dominated world by myself, and trying to figure out where do I land? Where's my place? What's the right thing to do? And trying to find that balance of what I needed. So for me, the older I get and the further in my career I get, it's very much a case of, I want to give back. I want to help other people. I don't want anything from it. I just want to know that I can support people. And I also learn from being a mentor. I mean, some of the situations people come in, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, I like the way you did that. I might think about that. I might consider that approach, and we'll sort of share information. So you almost get a bit of reverse mentoring as well. It's just, for me, it's such an incredibly rewarding thing to do, but also seeing people blossom and grow and have the confidence and dealing with whatever those sort of areas are that they want to focus on, just seeing them grow and progress and then build up the conversation, the confidence. So as time goes by, it ends up being more like a friendly conversation rather than a typical mentoring conversation. It's just, I could go on about it for hours. I really love it. I'm also actually going to be speaking at the SDI conference. I'll throw this in there. I'm speaking at the SDI conference in October, and I'm running a workshop on mentoring as well. So if anybody listening wants to come along to that, please sign up. There'll be a workshop. I'll be there. You get 45 minutes from me talking about mentoring, but also very interactive, saying, like, working out what your values are and various bits and pieces.
I love that. That's fantastic.
Shameless plug.
We'll actually get to meet at SDI because I'm also coming to Spark. So we'll actually get to meet face to face.
Oh, awesome. Looking forward to it. That would be brilliant.
And your passion is really showing through like that. I think that's why people mentor. They feel passionate about it. And I love that you pointed out that mentors learn, because it is so important. And I think Mr. Barrow's involved with that group too.
He is. I nominated him
as well.
I asked him to.
And speaking of passion, excellent. So yes, he's got such a calm demeanor, and he's very.
Sorry, we've got a bit of a lag, I think. So,
there's a delay right now.
So the guy that runs the mentoring program, he messaged a load of the mentors saying, hey, there's a load of women that do the mentoring, but can you recommend any men that can do it as well? And I emailed all of the key people I could think of. David was one of them, saying, please can you do this? You'd be brilliant. Okay, you can't talk about what it's like to be a woman in tech, but you can talk about what it's like to be in tech, and your experience is so valuable. So yeah, I'm very, very pleased that David does it too.
Yes, it's all about diversity, lots of different perspectives, and there's just so much usefulness in that. So your passion is showing through. It's clear you love service management. But what gets you jazzed? What keeps you coming back to service management and fighting for that next gig?
I think the main thing about it is, and I'm not sure many of my colleagues in the wider world will agree, but it's not rocket science. This service management thing, it's all about people. It's all about bringing people on a journey, helping businesses grow and develop, but also helping people grow and develop. And doing things in a simple, consistent way just makes life easier. I think throughout my career so far, I mean, I've learned as I've gone along that I've been doing a lot of service management stuff before I was even officially in service management. But it's just common sense. It's just applying basic logic. Like one of the things when we spoke before, I was talking about the ITIL 4 guiding principles. I absolutely love them because let's focus on value. Let's keep it simple. Let's just do all of these common sense things. But it doesn't just apply to IT. It can apply to the rest of the business. If you're implementing, I don't know, a new system in finance or a new process in finance, it doesn't need to be super duper complex. Keep it simple. Focus on the value. If it doesn't add any value, don't do it. And all of the guiding principles can just apply throughout a business. And I think that's what keeps me jazzed, is because historically, IT have been very much seen as a cost, but we're not. We are part of the business. We're a partner in the business, and we can all work cohesively together, delivering to those same core values, the same core principles. Again, I can go on about it for ages, but it's the people in it, I think, as well, definitely.
Yes. At the very core of it, if you can follow the guiding principles, you're doing great. In service management, you really are a good business partner, a good colleague. So, if you're not familiar with the guiding principles, I actually have them printed off on my wall over here because they're actually that good. They just apply universally. But let's get down into the weeds, because that really is where I think the nerdiness really shows through for most people, the individual components of service management. So, like, what parts do you find people struggling with? What keeps you curious? What are the components of service management that really keep you focused on this industry, that make you want to take ITIL 5?
The main ones generally is the one that people don't, or the one practice that people like the least is change management. Change enablement, ITIL 4. I love it. I think it's so important. It's so vital to how business is done. And one of the expressions I love from ITIL is it's optimizing risk. That's the thing. It's not about holding your hands behind your back and not being able to do things and red tape. It's all about driving things forward, but making sure you're doing it in a measured way. And that, you're taking a risk, but you're doing it thinking about what could potentially happen and mitigating those risks. The thing for me with this particular practice compared to some of the others is the holistic view, because you're not just looking at that one service that you're changing. You're thinking of the bigger impact to other services, to the business, to your user base, your customer base, the whole thing. So change enablement is definitely right up there. Anything to do with the introduction of new services, the entire life cycle, service value chain. Obviously, from my career history, I've spent a lot of time in incident and problem management, which I can do and I do enjoy, but I just have flashbacks to when I used to be on call, and incident management can be, there's a time and a place. I think there are people who can do it consistently forever. I'm not one of them. I would rather be able to be somebody who can advise and support on it. But I don't want to be answering a major incident call at 3:00 in the morning anymore. I've done my time. Under that.
Yeah. The trauma is real. And we end up doing the same. Like, I remember when I was consulting, you kind of implement incident, across 10 shops. It's not going to really vary a ton. There are going to be, of course, specific differences. Maybe one focuses more on the human element and they want people to feel good. Another one's like, oh, we're financial services, so we're hemorrhaging money when there's an incident. So get that sucker fixed as soon as possible. Who cares what the people feel? Like there's all this diversity that comes from those very basic ones. But you're right. At a certain point, I think every consultant reaches a point where they realize that those are super valuable processes, and of course they're all integrated, so none of them live in a vacuum. But eventually you realize that just needs to run on its own. The people doing it need to run it, and they need to just be intimate with that process and just always be focused on that. And then you can start working more strategically, work up the chain, like you said. Think about the value. Where's the value coming from? How can we how can we work within risk? I love the way that you put it, because you can't avoid risk. There's always risk. And I think we forget that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so speaking of ITIL 4, go ahead.
No, you carry on.
There's a lag. So, and I'll edit this out, but just so you know, the recording studio has like this lag that's happening right now, so it makes it hard for us to converse real time, which totally sucks. Do you want to go further into that? By all means, do.
All I was going to say was a little bit about risk management, but I'm happy to change.
No, talk about risk management. Not many people talk about it, and it's such an important aspect. Greg Sanker talked a little bit about it on his episode, but I would love to hear your perspective on it.
Okay. So just talking about that optimizing of risk and risk management, for me, it's an area that quite often people in IT or tech, that they don't realize the impact it has on their day-to-day life, because ultimately there's going to be a load of risks associated with running a technology function and running a business, and there's going to be a load of control mechanisms that are in place, and those control mechanisms typically tend to be ITIL 4 practices and some other bits and pieces. But absolutely everything anyone in tech ever does has a link to risk. Everybody's got some sort of involvement with developing code that doesn't have any dodgy bits in it, reducing the number of bugs, or pressing buttons if you're an infrastructure engineer that might restart an entire data center by mistake. All of those things, everything that you do has an element of risk. It's just understanding and recognizing it. And because I come from a background historically from financial services, anything to do with risk is drummed into you. You've got to understand the impact it has, because if you're talking about people's money, there's a huge impact. But that translates to other organizations as well, because risk does come into everything, and understanding your company's risk appetite, what it means to the big cheeses of like, are we going to just say, let's do it? Let's just, hey, never mind the risks, we're going to go ahead. Or like, no, I don't want to. Let's not do that. Let's keep our processes really tight and let's just keep things bobbing along nicely. But having people on the coalface or on the front line understanding what they do and how that interacts with risk is really important, which again, going back to the change enablement, that's why it's important to me. And this, shameless plug again, this is another workshop that I'm doing at the SDI conference about change management, because yes, the conference is for the Service Desk Institute, but change management impacts the service desk. Everything to do with change impacts the service desk and anybody in any kind of position of support. So for me, running the workshop is to try and help people explore what that means, what the impact is, and how they can be mindful of change management and risk in their day-to-day.
Yes, that's going to be a great workshop. I agree that the step of change management, I was writing a blog article about this yesterday, and the step where we communicate change is such an important step. The service desk, if they don't know what's going on, you're giving them way more risk than they're able to have and to hold. I also like the phrase that you used, dodgy bits. I wish I could pull off dodgy bits in daily conversation. No, but really, I really like the idea that there is always risk. You're managing risk. You're not eliminating it. It's tough to remember that. And I think one of the things that Greg Sanker said on one of his episodes, an earlier episode of Ticket Volume, was put that right on the change form. What is the risk? And if you know the revenue numbers, like throw that on there. People, all that information just helps people understand more. And your point about the service desk owning risk, I remember when I was an agent, that time, those times when you're accepting risk. It's when you're calling back the tapes from offsite storage. It's when you're pulling the do the DR button. When you press the DR button, we're going to recover from this disaster. You know that you're spending tons and tons of money and time and effort, and you feel bad for your colleagues because the entire department feels that in that moment. But it's so important to be able to do it and to prepare your teams for that as well. Wow. It's a lot.
Absolutely. It is definitely a lot. Definitely a lot. But I mean, exactly, just if you're working on the service desk, if you are doing a password reset or you're doing anything to do with a user account, there is an element of risk. I know this from personal experience. I have deleted a senior exec's account when they were using it and then had that, oh my gosh moment because I couldn't recover it. And I had to recreate it from scratch. And I lost a week's worth of their email and their data. And I had to go and run and say to them, I'm so sorry, this is what's happened. I wasn't aware. I hadn't considered the risk of what I was doing. And I was so into my sort of ways of doing things that I hadn't double checked before I confirmed that I was deleting, I'll call him John Smith's account instead of Jane Smith's account, because I just clicked yes and then had to deal with the consequences. So I learned from an early stage in my career the risks that I was taking and to take a measured approach. Thankfully, they were very, very nice about it and I didn't get shouted at, but they were disappointed.
Yeah, I feel bad. Even in this moment, even though I know you've left it behind you and you've healed, tears started coming to my eyes. I felt so bad for you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit higher level. Let's talk about frameworks for a second. What do you like? What are you thinking is happening in the framework space right now? Like when someone comes to you and they say, "I want to mature my service management organization," where do you start? Where do you start those teams? What road do you take them down at the get go?
The typical and most obvious one is ITIL 4. I've got a background in ITIL 3 as well, but ITIL 4 I think is wonderful. So I typically go there because that is globally known. In one way, shape, or form, there will be an element of ITIL in every single company, I would say. It's a bit of a brave statement, but I believe that to be true. So I typically start with ITIL 4, but one of the things that I was always taught when I was doing the training and going through all the work is you adopt and adapt. You cannot take any framework and plonk it into a company verbatim. You've got to be able to adjust it and fit your business needs. So, and this may not be popular with some of the people in the world of ITIL, but when I'm working with clients, what we will do is we'll do an assessment and we'll see, right, okay, what practices do you use? Okay, you use those, you don't use those. Okay, are you sure you don't use those? No, fine. Then we will focus on the ones we need to focus on. But one of the other things that I like at the minute is the whole humanizing IT thing that Katrina McDermott has been, she's written the book and the training course for. I like the human element of it. And I think certainly from when we were speaking before, you and I, one of the things that I've realized since I've been working for myself is I've been thinking a load of things for years, but having met some of these brilliant names in IT and service management, it's validated what I've been thinking. Because actually, I was thinking you've got to tailor your experience or the services you provide to the humans that use them. There's no point writing a knowledge-based article in techie language that people don't understand. You've got to be able to make it relatable and translate techie to non-techie. So I'm a big fan of that sort of stuff. I do like the agile world, but there is the big misconception with agile that if you're agile, you can throw in what you want when you want without any concerns. And that's not what agile is. Agile is making sure that you're delivering in a fast-paced environment, but you're still taking the necessary governance and approach and optimizing your risk. Again, going back to that whole risk thing, you're taking it step by step. But so typically, going back to the original question, I typically start with ITIL, but then I take the bits that we need and then address what it is, but making sure whatever is done is tailored to that organization, because that's the end goal. There's no point putting something in that people are never going to use. It's then a wasted area on your SharePoint site or Confluence, wherever it is that you store information. It's got to be fit for purpose, and it's focusing again on the value. If it doesn't add any value, then don't do it.
Yes. I'm going to counter your statement that ITIL people might not like it. I feel like that is part of ITIL now, is taking what works from where you find it, whether it's in COVID or ISO 20000 or an HDI training course or an SDI training course. Like there's all these places for us to learn and grow. And I think any framework would be a mistake for any framework to say, we are it. We're the everything. Yeah. We only use this. We are the stone tablets from the top of the mountain. You have to use this and stick to it. I think that would be a very bad situation. And I really love that you called out humanizing IT. I loved having Kat on. She's got just this crazy energy. I don't know where she finds all that energy sometimes.
Me either.
But it creates an element of understanding how to apply that, because we've had superstars in IT that know to connect complex technology to complex people. But now we're getting these frameworks and thinking and methods and ceremonies that do that for people that aren't comfortable doing that. But it makes it accessible, I think, anyway.
Oh, definitely. And I think going again back to the guiding principles is you just got to keep it simple. I mean, I think that's one of the other things with all of the frameworks and things that are out there. You can go down so many rabbit holes and end up having these really crazy complex frameworks, but you don't need that. You don't need any of that. And you can also, it's okay to cherry pick from one and another and put it together, because whatever suits your needs, that's the right way to do it.
Yeah. And I hope our audience understands that, because we've had IT for IT on, the Sophia framework we're going to be adding pretty soon the YASM, or yet another service management framework. We're going to have them on soon. So stay tuned to Ticket Volume to catch more about frameworks and more about where to pick up stuff from. But Sophie, where can people connect with you and learn more and engage with Lapis Consulting?
The main and first place is typically LinkedIn. I've got a page, obviously, on LinkedIn. My company's got a page which links to my company's website. My email address is there. My phone number is it's all on the website or on LinkedIn. And feel free to contact me. I'm happy to talk to everybody and anybody. I can talk ITIL till the end of the day, end of the week, the year, the month, forever. I can talk about mentoring till the cows come home. I just like to talk.
So get connected and make sure you connect with Sophie. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being here on Ticket Volume.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great.
And for our audience, did you know that you can join us for a live recording? Register today at ticketvolume.com and click on register. Thank you for listening. You can change and improve this podcast by DMing me or leaving a comment. And speaking of Ticket Volume, did you know that this podcast is brought to you by Invigate? It's a fit-for-purpose service desk solution with integrated asset management designed to let you focus on supporting your organization without huge implementations and huge bills. In fact, IT teams from Toyota, NASA, and McDonald's use Invigate to manage requests, automate workflows, and centralize inventory data so that they can focus on delivering better service. Because good service is good business.